Alex stood at the edge of the bustling marketplace, taking in the strange alien sights around him. The air was thick with the sounds of distant conversations in languages he could barely understand. Neon signs in foreign scripts lit up the market. Stalls, showcasing exotic goods from all corners of the galaxy. Alien traders haggled over prices, their voices rising and falling in a strange melody. It was the kind of place Alex had always dreamed of visiting, a world untouched by human influence, a place full of mystery and wonder. But something felt different today. As a young explorer for the Intergalactic Exploration Federation, Alex had been to countless planets, meeting different species and uncovering new worlds. Yet this planet, Virelia, was unlike any he had encountered before. The Virelians were a peaceful, intelligent race, known for their advanced technology and rich history. They had opened their doors to humans only a few years ago, and Alex was among the first humans to explore their world. While the market was a familiar sight, the sudden chill that ran down his spine was not. He had spent several days here, but today, something about the atmosphere felt off, as if something important was about to happen. The feeling lingered, a quiet unease that Alex couldn't shake. Suddenly, a voice crackled in his earpiece, pulling him from his thoughts. It was his translator, a small device embedded in his ear that allowed him to understand the alien languages spoken around him. "Alex, you have been summoned," the voice said. "The alien queen herself requests your presence." Alex's heart skipped a beat. The alien queen? He had heard of her, of course. She was the ruler of the Virelian people, a mysterious and powerful figure who rarely interacted with outsiders. Stories of her intelligence and authority were well known throughout the galaxy, but very few humans had ever been granted an audience with her. "Are you sure this is not a mistake?" Alex asked, his voice a mix of curiosity and disbelief. "No mistake," the voice replied. "She has personally requested to see you. Please proceed to the palace immediately." Alex looked around, confused. The palace of the Virelian queen was located in the heart of the city, a towering structure that seemed to defy the laws of physics with its curved, floating walls. He had never been inside, and the idea of meeting the queen herself filled him with both excitement and apprehension. He took a deep breath and made his way toward the palace, trying to calm the fluttering in his chest. He had met many leaders before, but this was different. The queen was not just a ruler, she was a living legend. The Virelians revered her, and for her to specifically request him, a mere human explorer, was an honor he couldn't fully comprehend. As he walked through the streets, he noticed the unusual silence that had fallen over the market. The usual hustle and bustle had quieted, and every Virelian seemed to be watching him with intense curiosity. It was as if they all knew something he didn't. When he arrived at the palace gates, a pair of towering guards stepped forward, their faces expressionless, behind their sleek silver helmets. Without a word, they gestured for him to follow them. The guards' presence was imposing, their height and strength making it clear that they were not just protectors of the queen, but protectors of something far more valuable. Alex walked in. Silence, the weight of the situation growing heavier with each step. The palace loomed ahead, its smooth surface reflecting the light from the twin suns in the sky. He had seen pictures of it before, but nothing could prepare him for the sheer scale of it in person. The palace was unlike anything he had ever encountered, a blend of alien technology and ancient design, all perfectly balanced. The guards led him through a series of winding corridors, each more intricate and detailed than the last. The walls seemed to hum with energy, and the air was thick with the scent of unknown flowers and herbs. Finally, they arrived at a large set of doors, made from what appeared to be a shimmering metal that Alex couldn't quite identify. The guards stopped, and one of them stepped forward, pressing a small button on the door. The doors opened with a soft hiss, revealing a grand hall beyond. The room was massive, its high ceilings adorned with strange symbols that pulsed with a soft golden light. In the center of the room stood the alien queen, surrounded by her advisors and royal attendants. She was a striking figure, her long silver hair flowing like liquid metal, her eyes a deep glowing violet. Her presence was commanding, and yet there was a softness in her gaze, as if she was not just a ruler, but a person with her own burdens to bear. Alex felt his breath catch in his throat. The stories had not done her justice. She was everything he had imagined, and more. Her beauty was otherworldly, but it was the strength in her eyes that left him stunned. She was a queen, not just by birthright, but by the very essence of who she was. "Welcome, human," the queen's voice rang out, clear and commanding. Her tone was calm, yet there was an undeniable authority behind it. "I have been waiting for you." Alex's mind raced. He was about to meet the queen of the Varelian people, and the reason she had summoned him was still a mystery. He stepped forward, his voice steady despite the nervousness creeping into his chest. "You requested to see me, Your Majesty?" he asked. The queen smiled softly, and for the first time, Alex saw a hint of vulnerability in her expression. "Indeed, there is something I must discuss with you, something that has the potential to change everything for my people." She paused, her gaze lingering on him. "Something only you, a human, can help me with." Alex's curiosity grew stronger. What could this alien queen want with him? What possible role could a lone human explorer play in the fate of her people? Before he could speak, the queen's attendants moved forward, closing the distance between them. One of them handed Alex a small device, its surface glowing with intricate patterns. The queen's gaze never left him as she spoke again. "I have waited long for this moment, human. And now, the time has come." Alex's heart pounded in his chest. This was no ordinary meeting. He had no idea what was about to unfold, but he knew one thing for certain. His life, and the fate of the Varelian people, was about to change forever. Alex's heart raced as he stepped further into the grand hall. The air was cool, but it felt heavier with each breath he took. The sight before him was breathtaking. The queen, standing at the center of the room, exuded a presence that was unlike anything Alex had ever encountered. Her silver hair cascaded down her back, reflecting the soft light from the golden symbols etched into the walls. Her violet eyes, deep and captivating, seemed to hold the weight of centuries of wisdom and sorrow. She was not just a ruler. She was an embodiment of power and grace. Her posture was regal, her movements fluid and controlled, yet there was a gentleness about her. The way she looked at him, without fear, without judgment, left him in awe. Alex, despite being an explorer, accustomed to strange sights, felt his breath catch in his throat. The room around them was vast, with curved walls that seemed to stretch endlessly toward the sky. The soft hum of the chamber's energy was almost soothing, yet there was an undeniable sense of something monumental about to unfold. As Alex stepped forward, the weight of the moment settled heavily on his shoulders. "Come closer," the queen's voice rang out, clear and calm. It was both warm and commanding, pulling Alex toward her as if she held a magnetic force. "Do not be afraid." Despite her calming words, Alex felt a mix of excitement and unease. What could this meeting possibly be about? What could she, the most powerful being on this planet, want from him, a mere human? As he approached her, Alex could feel the energy of the room shift. Her presence seemed to fill the entire space, making everything else feel distant. She was more than just a ruler. She was something extraordinary. He had heard stories of the queen's intelligence and power, but to stand before her, to see her in person, was something else entirely. She was otherworldly, yet undeniably human, in some ways. There was a softness in her features that made her look almost vulnerable, despite the authority she carried. The Queen's violet eyes never left his as she spoke again, her voice rich with emotion. "Tell me, human," she began, her words echoing in the silent hall. "What brings you to my world? To my people?" Alex, still trying to steady his nerves, cleared his throat. "I came as part of an exploration mission," he said carefully, "to learn about new worlds, new species. But I never imagined I would meet you, Your Majesty." The Queen's lips curved into a small smile, though it was tinged with sadness. "I see," she said softly. "And what do you think of my people? Of us?" Alex hesitated. He had always been taught to be diplomatic in these situations, to respect the cultures he encountered, but the truth was, he was fascinated. "I've heard much about your people," he said slowly, "but seeing it firsthand, it's beyond what I imagined. Your civilization is unlike any other I've encountered. It's beautiful." She nodded thoughtfully. "We are a race of thinkers, of creators. But beauty is fleeting, and our time here may be shorter than we'd hoped." Her voice grew distant, and Alex could sense a deep sorrow in her words. The Queen turned away slightly, her eyes looking past Alex as if lost in thought. For a moment there was silence between them, only the faint hum of the chamber's energy filling the space. Alex shifted uncomfortably, unsure whether to speak or remain silent. But the Queen's words had stirred something in him, a desire to understand more, to help, if he could. "I've heard stories about your people," Alex said carefully, trying to ease the tension. "How you've been facing difficulties. What's really happening? What do you need from me?" The Queen's gaze returned to him, her eyes hardening with resolve. "My people are dying," she said bluntly. "We are a species at the brink of extinction. Our numbers have dwindled for generations, and there is no cure. We are suffering from a biological flaw, one that has prevented us from reproducing for centuries." Alex felt his stomach tighten. The stories he had heard were true. The Varelians were facing extinction. But what could he, a human, possibly do to help them? The Queen continued, her voice softening. "Our technology is vast, our minds sharp, but we are unable to solve this problem. We have searched the stars for a solution, but none has been found. The rest of our people, those who still remain, live in fear. They fear the end of our race." Alex struggled to find the right words. He had encountered many problems in his travels. But this was different. The fate of an entire species was at stake, and the Queen's despair was palpable. I'm sorry," Alex said, unsure of what else to say. "That's terrible. But why did you summon me, Your Majesty? I'm just an explorer. How could I possibly help?" The Queen's eyes softened, and she took a step toward him, her movements graceful despite the weight of her words. "That is the question, isn't it?" she replied. "Why you? Why a human, when your people are so different from mine? Yet there is something in your biology, something that makes you unique, something that could save us." Alex's confusion deepened. "What do you mean? What about my biology?" The Queen hesitated for a moment, as if weighing her words carefully. "We have studied human genetics," she said finally. "There is a rare compatibility between humans and our kind. It is something that could help us to survive." Alex felt a chill run down his spine. Was she suggesting what he thought she was suggesting? He opened his mouth to ask, but before he could, the Queen raised a hand to silence him. "I understand your hesitation," she said. "This is not something I ask lightly, but you must know that if my people are to survive, we must try everything. And you are the only one who can help us." The weight of her words settled over Alex like a thick fog. The room felt colder, and the soft hum of energy seemed to grow louder, more insistent. He was caught between awe and fear, unsure of what to think or how to respond. The Queen studied him closely, her eyes searching his face as though trying to read his thoughts. "I do not ask this of you lightly," she said again, her voice firm. "But I believe it is the only chance we have left." Alex was silent for a long moment, his mind racing. Could he really help her people? Could he take part in something so significant, so far beyond anything he had ever imagined? I need time to think," he said finally, his voice quieter now. The Queen nodded, her expression unreadable. "Of course," she said softly. "Take all the time you need. But remember, human, time is not something we have much of." Alex nodded slowly, still processing everything he had just learned. The weight of his decision hung heavily in the air as he stood in the presence of the Queen, knowing that whatever path he chose, it would change his life and the fate of an entire species forever. Alex sat in his quarters, staring out of the small window at the strange, swirling clouds outside. His mind was still racing from the encounter with the Queen. The weight of her words lingered in his thoughts, each one pressing heavier than the last. A species on the brink of extinction. A biological flaw that had lasted for centuries. And somehow, Alex had been caught in the middle of it all. His hand rubbed the back of his neck as he tried to make sense of it. How could he, a human, help a race so different from his own? What possible role could his biology play in saving them? His thoughts were interrupted by a soft knock at the door. Before Alex could respond, it slid open, revealing one of the Queen's attendants, a Virelian woman with silver skin and sharp features. She bowed her head slightly. "Alex," she said, her voice polite but firm, "the Queen requests your presence. She wishes to speak with you about a matter of great importance." Alex sighed, his mind still clouded with doubt. He had thought about nothing else since the meeting. But now, the moment to face the Queen had arrived. His curiosity tugged at him, though a sense of unease lingered in the pit of his stomach. "Led the way," he said, his voice steady but quiet. The attendant didn't speak further, merely gesturing for him to follow. As they moved through the long hallways of the palace, Alex's mind couldn't help but race. What had he gotten himself into? Could he really help the Virelians? Could he be the key to their survival? When they arrived at the Queen's chamber, the doors opened with a soft hiss, and Alex was led inside. The room was dimly lit, with soft, glowing symbols etched into the walls that seemed to change color as they moved. In the center of the room, the Queen stood, her posture regal yet weary. She looked at him with a gaze that was both piercing and comforting, a balance of power and vulnerability that took Alex by surprise. "Come in, human," she said, her voice as calm as ever. "We have much to discuss." Alex stepped forward, his heart pounding as he came to stand before her. The Queen motioned for him to sit, and he did so without hesitation, his eyes never leaving hers. "I've thought a great deal about our conversation," she began, her voice steady. "And I understand that this is no easy request. It's not something I would ask of just anyone." Her gaze softened for a moment, but then it hardened once more. "But the survival of my people depends on it," Alex nodded, feeling the weight of her words pressing down on him. "I understand that," he said quietly. "But I still don't understand how I, a human, could help." The Queen's lips curved into a small, knowing smile. "You are not just any human, Alex. You are unique in ways that you cannot even begin to comprehend. Your biology is different from ours, yes, but there is something in it, something that my people have been unable to replicate for centuries." Alex leaned forward, his curiosity growing stronger with each passing moment. "What do you mean? What is it about humans that could help you?" The Queen's expression grew serious again. It is a rare condition in our species, a genetic flaw, you might say. We cannot reproduce naturally anymore. For generations, we have tried to find a solution using our advanced technology and knowledge. But nothing works. There is a connection in your biology, something we cannot replicate or artificially create, that could help us. She paused, as if trying to find the right words. It's a natural bond, something that cannot be forced or manufactured, the way your species is able to reproduce with ease. We do not possess that ability. Alex blinked, trying to absorb what she was saying. It was clear now that she wasn't talking about anything simple or scientific. She was talking about something far deeper, something biological, even emotional. He had to remind himself that the queen was not only a ruler, she was a leader burdened with the survival of her entire species. You want me to? Alex's voice trailed off as he tried to put her words together. You want me to help you reproduce? The queen nodded. Yes, but it is not as simple as it may seem. Our people have tried many different methods, but none have worked. What I am asking, what I need from you, is to help us restore our ability to bear children. It would not be a permanent connection, Alex. Just a temporary one. Alex sat back, his thoughts swirling. The idea of being involved in something so intimate, even for the survival of an entire species, was overwhelming. He could feel his heart racing, his mind clouded with questions. What if he said yes? What if he agreed to something that would change everything, something that might forever alter the course of his life? I'm not sure I understand, he said quietly, his voice tinged with confusion. Why me? Why a human? The queen's eyes never left his, and there was a deep sincerity in her gaze that made Alex feel as though she was speaking from a place of great pain. I understand your hesitation, human. I do. But there is something in your species that we do not possess. Something that can help us survive. It is not a matter of desire, but of necessity. We cannot allow my people to fade into extinction. Alex was silent for a long moment, his mind a blur of conflicting emotions. The idea of playing such a significant role in saving an entire species was both humbling and terrifying. He had always been an explorer, a traveler, but this was different. This was far more personal. I need more time, Alex said finally, his voice tight with uncertainty. I don't know if I can do this. The queen studied him for a long time, her face unreadable. I understand, she said quietly. Take all the time you need. But know this, human. My people's survival is at stake. And you, whether you realize it or not, hold the key. With that, she turned away, her back to him as she gazed out of the large windows, staring into the swirling clouds outside. Alex could feel the weight of the moment. This wasn't just an invitation. It was a responsibility, one that he didn't fully understand, but one that he knew would shape the rest of his life. As he left the chamber, the queen's words echoed. In his mind, you hold the key. The question remained, should he accept the responsibility? And what would it mean for him, for her people, and for the galaxy? Alex spent the next few days in a haze of confusion and doubt. The queen's request had weighed heavily on his mind, clouding his thoughts and making it difficult to focus on anything else. Every time he tried to distract himself, he found his mind drifting back to the same question. Should he help the Varelians? Was he truly the only one who could do this for them? The queen's words echoed in his mind. You hold the key. But what did that even mean? Was it really his responsibility to save an entire species, to be the answer to a problem that had plagued them for centuries? He spent hours walking through the palace gardens, his thoughts swirling as he tried to make sense of it all. The alien plants around him were beautiful, with vibrant colors and unusual shapes, but they did little to calm his nerves. He had never faced a decision like this before. Even when he had explored the farthest reaches of space, the challenges had always been external. Alien creatures, strange environments, unexplored planets. This, though, was personal. It was about life and death. It was about the future of an entire civilization. As Alex sat down on a bench near a pond, his mind turned to the Queen. She had been kind to him, even though she was a figure of immense power. He had seen the weight of leadership on her shoulders, the responsibility of guiding her people through their most difficult time. But there was something else about her, something Alex couldn't quite put his finger on. It was a vulnerability hidden beneath the surface, a pain that she tried to keep, locked away. He had seen it in her eyes when she spoke about her people's extinction. She wasn't just a queen, she was a person, a leader burdened by a deep and painful duty. He had to admit, he felt a pull toward her. It wasn't just about the duty she had placed on him. It was something deeper, something that he couldn't explain. Was it admiration, compassion? Or was it simply the weight of the situation pressing him into a corner, forcing him to make a choice that he never asked for? As the days passed, Alex found himself spending more and more time with the Queen. She continued to explain the details of her people's plight, the science behind their inability to reproduce, and how they had exhausted every possible solution. She had told him that her people's genes were too damaged to regenerate without external help, and that only a rare human biological trait could spark the change they so desperately needed. One evening, the Queen invited him to a private dinner, and for the first time, Alex found himself sitting across from her, not as a mere subject of her kingdom, but as a person she trusted. They sat in a large, dimly lit room, surrounded by strange, alien art and decor. The food was unlike anything Alex had ever tasted, with flavors that seemed to change with each bite. The Queen spoke little at first, but when she did, it was with a kind of quiet dignity that made Alex feel both honored and uncomfortable. "I understand that you are conflicted," she said softly, breaking the silence. "This is not an easy decision, Alex, and I would never expect you to make it lightly." Alex nodded, grateful for her understanding. "I don't know if I can do this," he said quietly. "I don't know if I can be what you need me to be." The Queen's eyes softened as she regarded him. "I know this is difficult. I know it is a burden that no one should have to carry alone. But my people, we have nothing left. If we do not find a way to save ourselves, we will disappear. Just like so many other species that once roamed the galaxy." Alex was silent, his mind spinning. He could feel the weight of her words. He had always believed that humanity was special, in the way it cared for others. But he had never been faced with something like this. Could he really carry the weight of an entire civilization's future on his shoulders? "But why me?" he asked, his voice shaking with frustration. "Why, a human? Why not one of your own people?" The Queen's gaze darkened, and for the first time, Alex saw a flash of something more, something fierce and protective. "We tried everything. Our technology, our scientists. Nothing worked. We needed something outside our own genes, something unique. You humans, you are different. And it is that difference that gives us hope." Alex felt his stomach tighten. There was something in her tone that made him believe she wasn't just asking him as a leader. She was asking him as a person, someone who had run out of options. For a moment, the room was filled with nothing but the distant sound of wind rustling the leaves outside. Alex struggled to find his words. The idea of helping her people, of possibly being part of a solution to their extinction, was both overwhelming and humbling. But what would it cost him? He had no way of knowing the full extent of the bond the Queen spoke of. What would it mean for his future? Would he ever be able to return to Earth? Could he live with the consequences of this decision? I don't know if I can, Alex said softly, his voice barely above a whisper. What happens if I refuse? What happens if I can't be the answer you need? The Queen looked at him long and hard, and for a moment, Alex thought she might say something harsh, something that would push him further into a corner. But instead, she spoke gently. You are not the only one who can help us, Alex. There are others, but none with the unique qualities you possess, and none with the willingness to make the sacrifices you could make. But if you choose not to, I will not hold it against you. My people will continue to search for a way to survive, as we always have. Her words, though soft, were filled with the weight of 1,000 unspoken emotions. She wasn't pressuring him, not in the way Alex had expected. She was simply offering him a choice that could change everything. Alex sat back in his chair, his mind a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. Could he turn his back on these people, on the Queen who had shown him nothing but kindness? But could he carry the burden of such an impossible task? The Queen rose from her seat, moving toward the large window overlooking the city. I know you will make the right choice, Alex. I trust you, and whatever happens, know that you have my gratitude. As Alex watched her, standing tall and regal in the dim light, he realized something. This wasn't just about saving a species. It was about doing the right thing, even when it felt impossible, even when the cost seemed too high. And for the first time since arriving on this strange world, Alex felt something stir deep inside him, something that made him believe he might. Just be ready to take that first step toward making a decision that would define not only his future, but the future of an entire species. Alex had never felt so uncertain in his life. Every part of him screamed for clarity, for some kind of sign to make the decision easier, but all he had were the swirling thoughts in his mind, each one competing for his attention. The Queen's. Words echoed over and over again, each time growing louder. You hold the key. He had spent the last several days walking through the palace, sitting in silence and talking with the Queen. Yet each time he felt no closer to an answer. He was torn between duty and fear, between compassion for the Varelians and the uncertainty of his own future. How could he, a human, possibly bear such a responsibility? To save a species, one that was so different from his own, was a burden that seemed too heavy to carry. He sat on the balcony of his quarters, looking out over the alien city beneath him. The Varelian landscape stretched out in all directions, with towering structures that seemed to be made of glass and metal, shimmering in the light of the twin suns. The city was beautiful, and yet it felt fragile. The very air seemed to hum, with the weight of what was at stake. Alex had always been an explorer, a man of action, but never had he faced something so deeply personal. He had helped uncover new worlds, made contact with different species, and solved problems that seemed unsolvable, but this was different. This was about life, not exploration. This was about saving an entire species from extinction. He had spent countless hours trying to wrap his mind around the Queen's request, but nothing seemed to make sense. He understood the stakes. He understood the urgency. What he didn't understand was why it had to be him. Why him? A single human out of all the possibilities in the galaxy. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the city, Alex felt a sudden, overwhelming wave of doubt. He wasn't ready for this. He wasn't prepared to make a decision that could change the course of an entire species. But then, as quickly as the doubt came, something shifted inside him. The thought of the Queen standing before him with that mix of strength and vulnerability in her eyes made something stir within him. He had seen how deeply she cared for her people, how much she had already sacrificed for their survival. And in that moment, Alex realized something. This wasn't just about biology. It wasn't just about his role in saving the Varelians. It was about trust. The Queen trusted him, and that trust was something he couldn't ignore. With that thought, Alex made his decision. The next morning, he found himself standing in front of the Queen's chambers once again. His heart beat in his chest, a mix of anticipation and anxiety. This was it, the moment when everything would change. The doors opened as if they had been expecting him, and Alex stepped into the room. The Queen was standing by the large windows, looking out at the city below. Her posture was perfect, her expression unreadable, but as soon as she saw him, she turned and met his gaze. "Alex," she said softly, her voice calm yet filled with a subtle anticipation. "Have you come to a decision?" He stood there for a moment, his hands clenched at his sides. There was so much he wanted to say, so much he wanted to ask, but all of that seemed to fade away in the face of the responsibility before him. "I've made my decision," Alex said, his voice steady, despite the turmoil inside him. "I'll help you. I'll help your people." For a brief moment, the Queen's expression softened. She looked at him with a mixture of gratitude and something else, something deeper. It was as if, in that instant, she knew how much Alex was sacrificing. She stepped closer to him, her eyes never leaving his. "Thank you," she said, her voice filled with sincerity. "You do not know how much this means to my people. To me." Alex felt a sudden rush of emotion, something he hadn't expected. He had agreed to help her people, yes, but this was more than just a task. It was a bond, a promise to do something important. He realized that in helping the Queen, he wasn't just helping an alien species. He was helping the woman who had shown him nothing but kindness and trust. "I don't know what this will mean for me," Alex said, his voice quieter now. "I don't know what happens next, or what it will cost, but I can't stand by and watch your people disappear. I'll do whatever I can." The Queen nodded, her eyes softening. "I know this is not an easy decision, Alex, and I do not take it lightly. But your choice will change everything. You will not be alone in this. My people will support you in whatever way we can." Alex took a deep breath, the weight of her words settling in. He had made his choice, but he knew this was only the beginning. There was still so much uncertainty ahead. But for the first time since arriving on Virelia, he felt a sense of clarity. "Where do we start?" Alex asked, his voice filled with determination. The Queen smiled, though there was still a hint of sadness in her eyes. "We start by preparing for what is to come. There are many details to consider, many things that must be done before we can proceed. But together, we will find a way." As she spoke, Alex felt a shift inside him, a sense of resolve that he hadn't felt before. He had made the right decision. The path ahead was uncertain, but he knew one thing for sure. He wasn't facing it alone. For the first time since he had arrived on this alien world, Alex felt like he had found his purpose. He was no longer just a human explorer on a distant planet. He was part of something much larger than himself. And with that realization, he knew that whatever came next, he would face it with courage. The Queen's eyes met his once more, and in them, he saw not just the weight of leadership, but the hope of an entire species. And in that moment, Alex knew that his life would never be the same again. The days that followed Alex's decision felt like a blur. There was so much to learn, so much to prepare for, and yet, despite the whirlwind of activity around him, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that he had crossed an irreversible line. He had agreed to help the Virelian Queen and her people, but the path ahead was still shrouded in uncertainty. The Queen had made it clear that the process of restoring her people's ability to reproduce was complex. It wasn't something that could be done overnight, and it would require not just biological intervention, but careful coordination and planning. Over the next few days, Alex worked closely with the Virelian scientists, learning everything he could about their technology, their genetics, and the deep bond that connected him to the Queen's people. Though the work was demanding, Alex found comfort in the fact that he wasn't alone in this. The Queen's support was unwavering. She often visited him, offering advice, answering questions, and even sharing stories of her people's past. Slowly, a bond was forming between them, not just as ruler and subject, but as two individuals working toward a common goal. Alex began to realize how deeply the Queen cared for her people. The Varelian society was built on a foundation of intellect and cooperation, but the fear of extinction had left deep scars. The Queen had led her people through countless challenges, but this, the chance for survival, was the most important challenge she had ever faced. As the days turned into weeks, Alex found himself feeling more connected to the Varelians. Had come to admire their resilience, their intelligence, and their strength. But he also saw the fragility of their situation. Every day that passed without a solution brought them closer to the edge. The Queen had made it clear. Time was running out. One evening, after a long day of discussions with the Varelian scientists, Alex found himself standing on the balcony of his quarters, gazing out at the sprawling city below. The twin suns had set, casting a golden hue across the sky. For a moment, everything felt peaceful. But deep down, he knew that the calm was only temporary. The task ahead was monumental, and the stakes were higher than he had ever imagined. As he stood there, lost in thought, the door to his quarters opened, and the Queen stepped in. She was as graceful as ever, her silver hair flowing softly behind her as she walked. Her eyes were tired, but there was a quiet determination in them. "I wanted to speak with you, Alex," she said, her voice calm but filled with urgency. He turned to face her, his heart skipping a beat. "Of course, Your Majesty. What's on? Your mind?" The Queen took a step closer, her gaze steady. "We are ready to begin the next phase," she said. "The process to restore our people's ability to reproduce. We have everything in place. And all that's left is the final decision." Alex's heart pounded in his chest. He had known this moment would come. But now that it was here, he felt a wave of uncertainty wash over him. Was he truly ready for this? Was he prepared to play such a crucial role in the survival of an entire species? The Queen seemed to sense his hesitation, and for the first time since he had met her, she softened. "You do not have to do this, Alex. I know this is not easy, but I believe in you, and I believe in what we can accomplish together. If you are ready, we will proceed. If not, we will find another way." Alex took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her words settle in his chest. He had come so far, and he knew he couldn't back down now. He had made a promise to help the Varelians, and he intended to keep that promise. "I'm ready," he said, his voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside him. "Let's do this," the Queen nodded, a look of gratitude in her eyes. "Thank you, Alex. This means more than you know." Over the next few days, the Varelian scientists began the final preparations. Alex underwent a series of medical procedures, all designed to ensure that the process would be as successful as possible. The process was complex, involving both advanced Varelian technology and the unique biology of humans. It was a delicate balance, and every step had to be carefully monitored. As the day of the procedure approached, Alex found himself reflecting on everything that had led him here. He had come to Varelia as a simple explorer, but now he was part of something far greater. He wasn't just helping to save a species, he was helping to shape the future of an entire world. And in a way, he was helping the Queen, the woman, who had trusted him when no one else could. The morning of the procedure, Alex stood in a sterile, high-tech room, surrounded by Varelian scientists and medical experts. The air was thick with tension, and he could feel the weight of what was about to happen pressing down on him. The Queen was there as well, standing beside him, her eyes filled with a mixture of hope and concern. "This is it," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Once this begins, there is no turning back. Alex nodded, his heart racing. He could feel the intensity of the moment, the importance of the decision. He had made his choice, and now it was time to face the consequences. As the procedure began, Alex felt a strange sense of calm wash over him. The Varelian technology was unlike anything he had ever seen, and it worked with precision, ensuring that everything went according to plan. There was no pain, just a strange, almost surreal sense of connection that seemed to grow with each passing second. The process lasted for hours, but when it was over, Alex felt a profound sense of relief. It was as though a heavy weight had been lifted from his shoulders. He looked over at the Queen, who was watching him intently. There was a quiet satisfaction in her gaze. "We have done it," she said softly. "My people will survive. We will rebuild." Alex smiled, though it was a small, tired smile. He knew that this was only the beginning. The road ahead would be long and uncertain, but for the first time, he felt a sense of hope for the future. Together, Alex and the Queen had done what many thought impossible. They had saved her people from extinction, and as they stood side by side, looking toward the future, Alex knew that his life would never be the same. He had not only helped save a species, but he had found a purpose beyond anything he had ever imagined. The galaxy had just become a little bit brighter, and Alex had found his place in it.